first of all.
Wait, we were... Hello.
Well, hi.
Welcome to Laura Cain After Dark. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening or watching. We have a show tonight.
Do we ever?
Oh my gosh.
Hi, everybody.
So we have a woman. Her name is Anne Greene.
Yes.
She's a model in Los Angeles, and boy, does she have a story to tell. It's a story about survival. It's a story about corruption. It's a story about
intimidation
and privilege and also PTSD and like I said, survival and justice. Like, this woman's story has celebrity connections, and I think all of you guys who are watching on Instagram Live should pop on over to YouTube Live.
Yes.
Because that way you guys will be able to hear her voice, because she's coming in through the phone because she lives in LA. She couldn't make it down for a Monday night. But so when we start the interview, we will hopefully you guys will pop on over. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Julie.
To YouTube, our YouTube channel, which is Laura Cain After
Yes.
Dark. Okay, so Anne has it's a hard story to hear, some of it, but it's quite the tale. I mean, is there anything you want to say about it before we don't want to give all the details.
I'm all about like true crime and stuff like that. I watch all the Netflix stuff on true crime, and I was going on a deep dive on TikTok one night, and I see this TikTok series called Don't Say Schwarzenegger. And I was like, what is this? So I listened to it, and I was absolutely pulled in because she's so articulate and she just didn't give up. And I was just amazed at kind of her resilience.
Yeah, this incident that she's going to talk about happened in 2015.
Yeah, April of 2015 in LA. And I reached out to her because I became very concerned, and she was lovely. She responded back. And then as the series went, I think I started when it was only 12 episodes in, and there's now, I think, 56 or 58 episodes.
My gosh. And how long are these episodes? And she's just giving chunks of the story,
they're about
a little bit
like
at a time?
10 to 15 minutes each.
Okay.
And, but it is a really unbelievable story.
Okay, we'll have her on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to apologize for not being on last week. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was so sick. I was flat on my back. Well, no, I was more like in the fetal position, to be honest. And all I did...
Yeah, you probably want to explain that you weren't flat on your back for other reasons.
I wasn't flat on my back, spread eagle or anything like that. Oh my God. Look,
Legs akimbo.
Legs akimbo. I love that word, akimbo. I really love that word.
Do you?
It's a cool word. Yes.
Should I say it all the time to you?
Yes, your legs are akimbo. So we're going to have her on for the entire podcast. Yep. So again, you guys are just joining us on Instagram Live. I think you guys should pop on over to our YouTube channel, which is Laura Cain After Dark, and we're live on YouTube too, so you could hear the interview. You don't want to miss this.
You do not want to miss it.
Anyway, we have producer Brian over here. Hey, Brian, what's going on?
Howdy.
Buddy?
How's it going?
Missed you last week.
Yeah, we missed you because you were almost dead. Apparently.
I know. I know. Well, why isn't the camera on you? Did you not fix the camera?
Oh,
there we go. You don't want to be seen tonight? Wow, okay.
Mysterious.
You want to be mysterious tonight.
He's like the Wizard of Oz tonight.
I know. God. Okay, before we get started with Anne, because you're going to call her.
I am.
And let's talk about La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center, our fabulous sponsor. If there's anything that you've ever thought about getting done, this is the time. They have finance plans. They have specials going on all the time. And there are so many different kinds of surgeries. Anything you could possibly want to fix, La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center has an answer for you. And here's more about them.
Hi, Dr. Riedler.
La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center is the place to go if you're looking to rejuvenate your appearance, tighten and shape your body, and just do something special for yourself. You deserve to look your very best.
La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center offers over 90 procedures and treatments for a natural, youthful appearance. They are absolutely the best in the business. Try out their treatment planner at glamfam.com. It's so easy and amazing to use.
We can't say enough great things about They're board certified plastic surgeons, and guess what? They offer flexible payment plans so you can start your journey to a better you right now.
Free consultations too. The very best in the business is in our own backyard. How lucky are we?
Make sure you tell them that Laura Cain After Dark sent you. We love everything about La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center. Go to glamfam.com.
Okay, ready. All right. Okay, so let's get on with the interview. Let's talk to Anne Greene.
All right.
ANNEGREENE on TikTok.
Here we go.
It's not.
Hello.
Hi, Anne.
Hi.
Hi, Anne. I'm Laura. Nice to meet you.
Laura,
Hi,
Anne,
Laura.
Anne,
so
Laura.
Nice to meet you too.
You know what? My middle name is Anne, ANNE.
Oh, so many people tell me that.
Really? I love
Yeah.
the E at the end of Anne that makes it. That was my grandma's name too. Anyway, Anne, thank you so much for being on our show, and we really appreciate you sharing your story. I know it must be really hard to relive over and over and over again like you've had to, but in order for you to, reach your conclusion to this whole thing, you need to get the word out. So we are happy to have you on and tell your side of the story and what you've been through and what it is that you are looking for. And let's start at the beginning. Like you're a model in Los Angeles.
I just wanted to say thank you so much too for having me on, because this whole process of having to talk about it, as hard as it is, the more people that hear the story, the closer we can get to justice and the more safety I have. So it means
Absolutely.
the world to me that you guys are having me on. So thank you so much.
Of course. Absolutely.
Yes. So, Anne, you're a model in Los Angeles. It's 2015. You're at a ritzy exclusive club. Then
Yes.
what happened?
So this is just over 9 years ago. I lived around the corner from the Nice Guy, which is what it's called. And I went with three people. One was my older brother, and then the other two were his coworkers, because he owned a bar on the Sunset Strip at the time. And so the three of us went there, and we weren't even there that long. I think we went and we ordered a round of drinks. I got a Stella. For some reason, I remember weird details. But at a certain point, I was like, hey, I'm going to step out into the outdoor smoking section, have a cig. And they were like, oh, we'll come with you. So the four of us go out there, and it's a small enclosed area with a 6-foot wooden fence around it. And within 20 seconds, all of a sudden, we heard a really crazy commotion out in the street. So we just peeked over the fence, and there was a guy just curled up in a ball, and maybe about a dozen or so guys stomping, kicking, punching him. And another maybe 10 or so people just standing there, like just a few feet away watching. And so it was pretty intense. And the thing is, back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago, a long time ago, I used to be a bottle service waitress in LA. And when you work in that world, you see a lot of stuff. Like I saw a lot of fights. I saw people cracking bottles over each other's heads.
God.
I saw, like you just see that when you work in Hollywood,
Sure.
at the little hot spots, like in the clubs especially. So I'd seen stuff like that, and it's always like, oh God, and security handles it, and they move the staff out of the way. And it's never, I never felt the need to intervene ever in any of those instances. But this was different, because it was a guy he was curled up in a ball, just trying to protect his skull. And you could tell that the men that were beating him were getting more savage the less he could defend himself.
Oh.
And so I remember in that moment, I was like, it was just so many thoughts ran through my head in a split second. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to die, or he's going to be a paraplegic after this is over. And tomorrow, when everyone in LA finds out about it, they're going to be like, oh, you were there? And what am I going to say? Yeah, I stood there holding a beer and I watched it happen. I didn't do anything. And so it was that brutal. So and also too, one thing I clocked in those few seconds was they were all wearing like sports coats and like dressed very nice. So you could tell that they had just come from dinner from inside the Nice Guy. And the Nice Guy is a place where you can't just walk in. You have to be on a list, or you have to be, your name has to be on a list, period. Whether, celebs, whatever, but you just can't walk in randomly ever. Mm-hmm. So I'm also thinking, okay, they're well dressed. They came from the nice guy. Like they wouldn't, if I just tell them to stop, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, what are we doing? Like, it's not like we can get away with this. They know our names. So I hopped the fence, like, just like, boop, like went over it. And I ran out there and I'm screaming, he's not fighting back. It's over. It's over. And I pulled this one guy off of his body and he just shrugged me off. And so I tried to pull him off by the shoulder again. And he turned around and I happened to turn around because I could hear like the other men behind me. So I turned my back and that gentleman that I pulled off, he hit me so hard in the back of the skull that I immediately lost consciousness before I hit the ground. And so, I wake up maybe, I don't even know, 30 minutes or something later. And when I woke up, I'm sitting on the curb and I'm just in shock. I have a traumatic brain injury. I'm just like, my face is crazy. And I was confused, obviously, because I didn't remember being hit because the first hit was in the back of the head. But I woke up and I have bruises and like my whole face is like rearranged. And there's an ambulance in front of me and a paramedic is shining lights in my eyes. And I was just so confused. I'm like, no, I remember them like, they're like, you need to get in the ambulance. And I was like, no, I'm fine. No cops. And they were like, Anne. And then I went and touched my forehead and it was like 5-6 inches out. And
oh my God.
Okay. I was like, you know what? Why don't we go to the hospital? So, so they threw me, obviously like a brain injury. So you just don't really know what's going on. But, and then of course, like down the road throughout the criminal proceedings and all of that stuff that happened for years, I was buying all the transcripts to kind of fill in the blanks. And that's when I got a hold of the police reports. I got a hold of every single deposition, every single hearing, every single statement. And I pieced it all together and realized what had happened. And then I realized that certain people were changing their story dramatically after the first couple of months. And that's when I kind of realized the corruption was happening. And then it just became, years of a deep dive and keeping a paper trail. And
so what was the story? Like, who was the guy and who were the guys beating the guy?
Well, so at the time, we've never met any of these people. They were just strangers. But we found out that night at the hospital, I think it was, because the police came to the hospital to try to get statements from us. And, obviously, I had a concussion, all that stuff. So like a lot of it was in and out, but I did write most of the stuff down. And apparently, and this is from testimonies that I got in the police reports, but so it was this large group of guys, like maybe like 20 and girls, like 20 people or so that were there for a birthday dinner, and they were friends with the owners. And so they had a big table and bottle service, all that stuff. And they were wasted. And when they came out, like rolled out of the bar around 1:45, like last call, they come outside, like, oh, can I swear?
Yeah, you can totally swear.
Okay, because they were shit-faced and they admit to it and everything under oath. But they come outside and they start giving, 5 to 10 valet tickets to the valet. And they're like, get all our cars. And it's like one or two guys at the valet. One of them was an older gentleman. And he said, sir, like one of the main criminals in the case, he was like, sir, your car is parked 4 feet away. It's the very first car parked here. Can you just take your keys and I'll tend to all your friends so it's faster? And the guy goes, I don't give a fuck, like blah, blah, blah. Like you pull my car right up to my feet. I don't give any swearing and berating.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
And there happened to be 2 TMZ paparazzi standing there because they were waiting for celebs to come out. Like Michael B. Jordan was inside, apparently, according to them. And so they were standing there and they were like, yo, like, lay off the valet guy. Like, are you seriously getting in a valet's space when he's just trying to like expedite all of your, tickets? So the criminal guys, they didn't like that. And so they start getting in the face of the first TMZ guy and backing him up. And then finally one of the defendants just sucker punches the TMZ paparazzi. He hits the ground. And then after that first punch, the whole group, this is according to the TMZ guy, the whole group jumped in, starts stomping him and just like, oh, let's gang up on him.
Like mob mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he like lost consciousness temporarily. And the second TMZ guy was obviously trying to help and be like, trying to, de-escalate and stuff against, 10 guys or so, 10, 15, whatever it was. So the second TMZ guy, they beat him up as well. And then they drag him out into the street. And that's what we saw. We didn't even know about the first TMZ guy, but that's what we saw. And this was all of that. Everything I just said is from the police reports. It was from initial depositions, but mainly police reports. And I like to call that the time when everybody was telling the truth before famous criminal defense attorneys entered the chat. And suddenly,
oh boy,
TMZ's story, the paparazzis, and I have the documents, their stories changed dramatically. Literally, like a year later, it was, oh no, that TMZ guy, he wasn't even there. He pulled up later. He never even got hit. He's not suing. It's fine. And I'm like, that's funny, because in the police report, he says he was beaten savagely and lost consciousness. Both of them did. But suddenly he wasn't there. And then the second one was saying, it wasn't that bad. I had like a scratch. I only left work for like a minute, like drastically. It was very telling.
God.
Okay, so who are these men? They have a famous. They're somewhat. Well, they're notable, right? I mean,
yeah, it's notable, and they are like really entwined with A-list celebrities, all sorts. So most of the defendants, there's 3 of them that are actually all related. There's the worst of the defendants who were convicted and everything, and they're the Driz family. Mm-hmm. 2 of them, the older ones, they were actually there. It was celebrating their birthday. It was their 50th birthday there. So the identical twins, Alberto and Maurice Driz, it's them. And then one of those twins' son, Sean Driz, was also convicted. He was there. They're all extremely violent and everything. And the Drizzes have been I forget the word, like not angel investors, but they were the very first owners of the Blaze Pizza franchise when they first opened, I believe in 2013, and it's now worth about $1 billion.
Oh, God.
So, and they owned at the time like 11 or 12 locations throughout Southern California, I think maybe one in Vegas, but they owned a ton of them. And those locations have been making so much money. If you just Google, like literally they've been expanding. It's crazy. But they owned all that. And on top of it, the other main initial investors of Blaze Pizza were Maria Shriver and her son, Patrick Schwarzenegger. And the Shriver-Schwarzenegger family not only were business partners with the Drizzes, but we found out, because like, you know, LA is a very small world when you're dealing with like that kind of world, mm-hmm. You know, like the celeb world, all that stuff. It's a very small world. Everybody knows everyone. And within 2 weeks after the assault, we found out through maybe 15 like friends and acquaintances that heard about what happened and like wanted to get any information they could. We found out that 100% Christina Schwarzenegger, the youngest daughter of Arnold and Maria, had been in a long-term relationship with one of the defendants, Sean Driz, the younger of the 3 Drizzes. And at that point, I remember thinking, okay, well, that's actually disappointing. I was like, but that's a good thing. I'm like, my little naive head. I was like, well, if Maria Shriver, you know, a renowned feminist journalist, like she is going to step in and be like, well, this is not happening. You're not going to be dating my daughter, even though Christina is a full-grown adult with, you know, full bodily autonomy and whatever. But I just figured, and also it's not a good image for a family like that.
Right.
And I figured they'd step in and, you know, cut those ties and be like, yeah, we're not having our daughter date a guy who was involved with crushing a girl's skull. Like, we're not. And I kind of like sat back, and, you know, the police and DA, everybody was like, you don't have to like do anything. You don't have to post about it on social media. You don't have to investigate it. Like, trust me, we have video evidence. We have witness statements. We have medical injuries. It's just, you guys have too much evidence. Just let justice and the law handle it. And I was like, okay, I totally have faith. You're right. But then once we got to the criminal preliminary hearing, like a year later, whatever it was, that's when all of a sudden the weird things started happening. I started noticing things, and that's when I started my little, okay, I guess I'm going to have to not take anyone's word for it. Well, and I'm going to buy every single transcript.
Were they ever arrested? I mean, did the police, where did they go did they take off after?
Yeah.
Before the police got there and stuff?
They took off because they knew somebody had called the police. And so they all hopped in their like Bentleys and Maseratis, and they fled the scene. And from there, they went back to Sean Drizz's apartment, which was like in West Hollywood or Beverly Hills, somewhere close to the scene. And they all went there, and we found out, I found out through all the documentation that they went there and all talked about what happened. And one of the older Drizzes, he was bragging about knocking me out. He
oh
said
my
something
God.
Knocking out a girl.
God.
Jesus.
Yeah, he I think his words, he said something like, yeah, I got her good. Bang. And so,
oh my God.
that was, yeah. And then it was, I think they were arrested. I want to say, I don't know, like maybe like 7 to 10 days later. And during that week, we had to go down to the police station multiple times and give statements. And, they pull up photos and you have to point it out and go, that's him, that's not him. And we happened to be at the station, and the lieutenant and everything was, the sergeant and stuff, they were really, really helpful, and they were pissed. Like, they were like, we work harder when it's like something to do with children or when it's something to do with women being hurt. They're like, we're going to get these guys. And they were on it. And while we were being interviewed, I saw a police officer walk over to the sergeant that was talking to us, and he had this, like, his eyes were the size of dinner plates. He kind of looked stunned, and I looked down and pretended I was doing something, but I was totally listening and eavesdropping. And he whispers in the sergeant's ear, he goes, Robert Shapiro is here.
Oh,
and he
my
had this,
God.
He was like starstruck, but it was like starstruck. And so the sergeant was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. And he's got all the defendants with him. They're turning themselves in. So here's the thing. They turned themselves in because a leak in the department, somebody had reached out and said, it was either a leak or we're not really sure, but there was definitely, they got a heads up that they were going to be arrested, and they didn't want it to be happening at their homes in front of their, wealthy neighbors and stuff.
Oh.
And so Shapiro, who's been a long time friend, as he said in the trial, he's been a long time friend of 25 years with the Drizzes. And he was smart. He was like, yeah, no, we're going to walk you down there immediately. And they were in and out in 45 minutes.
They weren't even behind bars?
No. So this was the first thing that, like, this is right after Shapiro got involved, when things started getting weird. And so they have an initial arraignment when something like this happens. And we found out way down the road, when I was reading, like, the DA's statements in court, because the DA was amazing, like one of the few unethical people in this entire process. But I remember him saying in the transcript, he was like, first of all, he's like, Your Honor, he's like, this is crazy. He's like, because I was supposed to be like, this is how it goes. This is just protocol. He's like, I was never notified about their arraignment after they were arrested. He goes, they were somehow allowed to have a private, secret arraignment and they set it up. Like, it wasn't even like the people. He goes, they set it up. Shapiro set it up and everything. And by the way, this is like standard in California law that if you're in trouble for either murder or attempted murder, or I think attempted murder, if you're in trouble for that, the minimum your bail will be $1 million or no bail at all. That's the standard. Their bail in their secret hearing without a DA present was, I think it was about 25 to 35,000, which means they only had to pay like 10%. That's like the way it works.
Oh yeah.
So they had no prison. They had nothing. They were allowed to have a secret thing, pay a few $1,000s, and they're out. So that was just the beginning of crazy stuff happening, where they were just like, oh, we're not going to have this DA. We don't want him. Oh, we're not going to have this judge. We're going to remove that judge, because the judge made it clear that these guys are a danger to public. So that's happened like multiple times, like a pattern, not like one here, one. It's wild. Even, I haven't finished my series yet, but there's 3 different times in this whole, at this, I guess, 7 years process between the assault and the end of the civil trial in 2021, 3 different instances where court transcripts were blatantly altered with proof backing it up that they were altered.
Oh my
By
God.
whom?
That's
Do you
a
know?
good question. I can't say, because I wasn't there for whoever pulled those strings, but it is really, 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 like, I have had, by the way, since I started my series, I have had so many court reporters, like, not just like other states, California. I have had so many court reporters reach out to me and validate it and confirm it. And they're like, first of all, you can always get the audio if you think this happened. And I'm like, yeah, actually, I have reached out to all the court reporters for the specific ones, and both court reporters said the first one said the audio was stolen. She was like, it's the first time in my career it's ever been stolen. And the second court reporter just flat out said no. So
money.
I can do a whole, like, I can report to the court reporters board. But I could sue because also I had to pay for all, like just the civil trial transcript alone. I bought, and it was $8,000.
Okay,
Wait,
I was
what?
just going to ask you that.
Why wouldn't they
my God.
provide that for you?
4 or 5 feet high of documents that I've had to pay for myself over all these years, which turned out to have evidence proving federal crimes, felony, like, of people working in the system. So there's somebody huge that with a lot of power, political power, and soullessness that has been able to do that, like having judges removed, having transcripts completely changed so as to make the charges and the counts go down, and remove witness statements. And, one thing I'll say is the reason why I decided to name my series Don't Say Schwarzenegger is because, and I haven't covered my civil trial yet in the series that's coming up soon, but right before the civil trial began, there's a hearing that, like, they'll always have with the judge and the attorneys and stuff, like the day before the trial starts, and they kind of go over like specific rules that they're going to make for that specific trial. For example, like, you can't bring up, this girl's, past if she was like a stripper, or you can't bring up this and this, because we have to stick to the story. And, like, sometimes they have to tell attorneys to make these motions just so nobody, tries to sway a jury with stuff that isn't pertinent. So
Sure.
one of the rules that the defense tried to add to I think it's called motions in limine, I forget, but the defense asked the judge the day before the trial to make sure that nobody could say Schwarzenegger. And she was like, no, because like, you guys, it's like they had been bringing up Schwarzenegger, and the judges have been bringing up Schwarzenegger all throughout the years, whether it be in depositions and whatever. We had never mentioned them. They did. So when the trial came, they were like, can we make sure that no one's allowed to say Schwarzenegger or Christina or Arnold? The judge was like, yeah, no. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to name my series. Don't say I mean, at one point when I found that out, I was honestly thinking about, because I was afraid that the judge would allow that rule. And I was like, okay, then I'll just temporarily change my name to Arnold Schwarzenegger is involved. They have to, like, address me as that in court. But I didn't have to do that.
Is that what you were thinking at the time? Okay, so we're at the criminal trial now, right? No. Can you hear him? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Hello?
Oh, no.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
What happened?
Can you hear us?
Okay, call her
Hello?
back. Hello? Yes?
Can you hear us?
Shit.
Okay,
Hold on. I'll call you right back.
I'll call you right back. Oh my God, just when it was getting like
Oh my God.
juicy.
Hold on, let me
I
call
know.
her.
You're damn, you know what? It's your freaking phone.
It's not my phone.
It is your damn phone. I hate your phone.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice message.
No matter what, whenever I'm talking to Eric, it always like
Hi.
cuts out, cuts in, cuts out.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, that was weird.
No, I think it's Eric's phone. I think his phone is
I
jacked
get blamed
up.
for everything.
I know.
Men.
I know.
So we are at the criminal trial now. And I know, let's go back to when you were saying you were kind of happy to know that the Schwarzeneggers were somewhat connected because of Maria would come to your, hopefully, somewhat of a defense for you.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening, was she just crickets or nothing?
Well, she didn't do nothing. She opened her arms warmly for Sean Driz to be a part of the family on their luxury vacations, luxury dinners, because I went and told, I've been like my own little private investigator for years, and the amount, and first of all, Sean like deleted his social media or made it private, but immediately once I started kind of talking about this publicly, like a year and a half after it happened, so 2016-ish, But that wasn't good enough because I figured out who all his friends are, and I would go and, deep dive into their Instagrams and stuff and find, oh, look at him. He's, in Turks and Caicos he's at the Ritz-Carlton. There's him and Christina having dinner. In fact, Maria Shriver posted just a few months ago, and I put it on my Instagram and TikTok series.
Oh, yes.
She posted a little reel, and it was like, the caption was like, taking a moment to really appreciate loved ones, friends, and family, and the people closest to us. And it's her, and they're like on a fancy sailboat, like somewhere, I forget. And it's, all the Schwarzenegger kids and the Shriver, like Ted Shriver, I don't even know the names, all the other Shriver, like men. And what do I see there is a cozy picture on the sailboat with Sean and Christina cozied up, just like with the sun setting behind them, a picture that Maria took. And so that's been something that was after the civil trial, and they've been together ever since. In fact, they moved in together. She moved him into her home, Christina Schwarzenegger's home. She moved him in 2017. So they have not only stayed together, but they've fully, I can't prove this, but I've heard, rumors over the last year that they got engaged. And
was he the worst of the of the attackers, do you think, or in your opinion, or do you know?
I think it's kind of different because I know every detail of every punch and kick that was thrown and whatever and stuff. But he had the most charges against him. All of them had GBI felony charges along with multiple other ones. And GBI felony is great bodily injury, and that's the highest charge you can get below murder. And so they all had those charges, but to be honest, in my opinion, I know it was Alberto Driz, one of the older twins, that knocked me out initially from behind, but the one, according to, this is awful. 99% of my injuries all over my body and my skull happened after I was hit in the back of the head. So that means my body was there. They could have, people thought I was dead. And the Drizzes, they were beating the shit out of me while I was unconscious. And a witness, a stranger, had come out of the bar to de-escalate, and oh man, this is the crazy part. So it was the manager of the nice guy. He ran out because one of the staff was like, oh my God, there's a fight, come outside. And when he ran out, and this is what he testified to in court, both criminal and civil, he said, I came outside and there was a woman on the ground unconscious, and there was a man sitting on top of her, sitting on her chest with his knees on each side of her head, and his arms, his fists were just swinging out, left, right, left, pounding on my skull.
Oh my God. And
so he immediately tries to pull him off, and then he was assaulted by Sean Driz for doing so, for trying to save my life, which he probably did, because if he hadn't pulled him off, who knows what one of those punches while I'm unconscious,
Yeah.
And so here's one of the craziest parts of this entire thing and my series was that was my star witness to my attempted murder. He testified to that in the 2016 criminal, the manager.
Okay.
He testified to it in detail, like what I just told you, but even more detail. And he also said on the stand, he's like, I don't know these people. He's like, but I wanted to drive all the way out here and be, available to testify because it's kind of different when you see, a woman being beaten by a man, especially a woman who's unconscious, possibly dead, and they're still beating the shit out of her.
Right.
So he was like, I needed to do this because it was that fucking brutal. So here's the thing. When the end of the criminal trial ended, suddenly the charges that were no brainer, attempted murder. It's attempted murder. It's just it's not even it's objectively attempted murder. Right. They didn't get attempted murder charges. They actually got GBI felony charges, which is so serious, but it's not attempted murder. And we were devastated. We were like, how is that possible? We had all the evidence and we caught them lying. It was crazy. So whatever, we'll take it, blah, blah, blah. Cut to 2020, right when COVID began, February in 2020. And at that point, I had been investigating. I had been doing my due diligence. I'm very aware of the corruption. I'm very aware of the big high-powered names involved. And I got a DM from on like Instagram or something from the manager. And again, never met him or anything. And he messages me and he's like, hey, I just saw that you're like kind of posting here and there about what happened. And he's like, I just want to let you know, I was there that night. I testified in your criminal a couple years ago. I hope I don't trigger you, but I just wanted to see how you're doing. And if you have any questions, like I'm more than happy to answer them. And I was like, whoa, okay. And I'm worried I'm being catfished because I'd already had some weird stuff. So I was like, you know what? Yeah. And I messaged him back. I said, I do want to talk to you, but not on the phone. I want to see you in person. Like I was kind of like, like,
yeah,
right.
Like, I want to see you in person. I want to look in your eyes because I'll know within 10 seconds if you're lying to me and if you're if you've been bought off or something.
Right.
So I am like, yeah, let's meet for lunch. I'll come down to where you are. And so I had a private investigator security guard sweep the place first before the lunch and wait several tables over and figure out what car he was driving. Like I wanted to be sure I was safe and I wanted to make sure there was no other people that were going to be in there watching. And I had to be safe.
Uh-huh.
So because really scary stuff had been happening to me at that point already. So I was like, okay, so I go and meet the manager for lunch. And within the first minute, it's immediately apparent that he's a good guy. It's apparent that he's telling the truth and this is not a setup. We end up sitting there for an hour. We didn't even talk about the case. It was like, it almost seemed inappropriate because we both realized we were involved in something pretty traumatic and we were just literally just asking each other about our lives. Like, oh, you have a wife and kids. That's great. And like, how's blah, 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 blah. The lunch ends and we get the check and we're standing up and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to get the balls to say it. And I just said, okay, you know what? I've already read your testimony from the preliminary trial. Like I've read it 3 times. I know it by heart, but could you just tell me in your own words what you experienced that night? Here's the thing. What I just told you about what he witnessed is not what was in the transcript. In the transcript, the transcript said, I came out of the bar and there was a person at the disadvantage on the ground and I saw a guy on top of the person at the disadvantage and I pulled him off. And then the person at the disadvantage was still there. And then I got hit. And then he finally in the transcript, it ends with him saying, yeah, so the guy on the ground was there and that's what I saw. And that's it. So here's the thing. At the end of lunch, I say, what happened? What did you see? Because in my mind, he's not a star witness. He saw one of the other guys getting beat up. He proceeds to tell me what I initially told you guys a little while ago, that he came out and there was a woman unconscious on the ground and a guy was cracking her skull open. And he was so upset by what he saw that he felt the need to testify because it was so brutal. And he's like, and I realized, I realized down the road, like now he goes, I realized that woman was you. And it was just, I'm glad I was able to help in any way. And I kind of just went into shock because I didn't even know how to take that information. Like, wait a second. So I get in my car, I'm driving up the 405 and all of a sudden I start to like almost hyperventilate and I have to pull over to the side of the highway. And I'm like, what did I just hear? Because he's saying that he testified that he pulled a man off of a woman's body who was swinging left, right on her skull. But the transcript says it was a man. Wait a second. So I immediately text him. I go, what the fuck? And I tell him, like, this isn't right. That's not what the transcript says. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I even testified too that part of the reason I was there was because when a man beats a woman, it's worse than a man beating a man. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's not in the transcript. So I speed home, pull out his testimony, screenshot it, send it to him. And he immediately was like, yeah, that's not what I said. And also he goes, there's like weird adjectives here that I would never use to describe. Like I wouldn't say the person at the disadvantage, like whoever altered the transcript made sure all the she's and the hers and the Anne and the woman, anytime he said that, all 56 times he mentioned me, they changed every single pronoun to
my God.
To someone, person, them, or they, and at the very end, they changed the last pronoun to he. So what that does is that removes the star witness for my attempted murder off the page. So so we figured that out, and that was just one of the biggest like okay, who has the power? And that's when I reached out to the stenographer and I said, yeah, somebody changed the transcript. Like, I'm going to need the audio. And she was worried about my safety. I'll just say that. Like, she wasn't the one that was corrupt. She reached out and was like, I need you to be safe, but I also need you to know in my 30 or plus or whatever years of doing this, it's never been stolen or like removed. She's like, we don't have audio. I don't know how that happened.
Oh my God.
So how long
did I lose you guys again?
No, you did not. Hello?
Shit.
No.
Okay.
Oh my God.
It's not my phone. I swear it's been sitting here. I haven't touched it.
It just died. I saw it just died. There we go. Here, you gotta.
Hi, I don't know what's. I think it's Laura.
Eric has a stupid. His phone sucks. I hate.
It's
I hate
an
talking
iPhone.
to him on the phone.
It's an
I know,
iPhone
but you have
Pro
a
Max.
lemon. You have a lemon.
I do not.
Anyway, okay, so
Okay, it's okay.
your trial. Okay, so the preliminary trial happened, and then the criminal trial happened, and then what happened? Were they convicted? And what were the charges? And because something major, like this is a historical thing happened.
Well, so criminal happened. That was the prelim. I mean, it was like a week or two long, the preliminary hearing, whatever. Criminal. But yes, they were all convicted of GBI felonies, and I think all of them had between 4 and 6 counts each. The Drizzers had the most. Christina Schwarzenegger's boyfriend had the most out of anyone because he was just brutal. But so they had all the charges, and so when they all got convicted, we were relieved. And the judge that we had for the whole criminal thing, he was fantastic. And at one point, on his last day that he was there after the whole trial happened, he actually made a statement, and this was right before sentencing, and he said, well, it's very apparent to me that these defendants are an extraordinary danger to society, so we're going to deal with that at sentencing. Well, the sentencing, hold on, I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Okay. At sentencing, which happened like a month or two later, that judge was removed and replaced with a new judge. And the new judge was supposed to give him about like everybody from the DA to whatever. They were like, yeah, so how this works is when you have these many, serious charges, you're probably going to get, up to 7 years in prison. And so we were like, it's not enough, but okay, prison. Okay. They're going to go from mansions to prison. That should have hurt. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And the new judge, remember the first judge was like, these guys are an extraordinary threat to society. Like he was clearly going to throw them in prison for years. And the new judge came in and said, okay, so we're going to give everybody 45 days, non-consecutive. And what that means is you can spread out your 45 days over the course of the year. So you can just do weekends if you want so that it doesn't impede with your social life.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yes. So, and on top of the 45 non-consecutive days, they were supposed to go to prison to do it. And instead, LA County Jail is a rough place and they didn't want to go there, So the judge allowed them. It was their idea. And she was like, yeah, that's a great idea. They said, they were like, our clients are willing to go to a jail of their choice.
Oh my God.
And they found a really nice private jail in Seal Beach, California. And they are willing to do it there. And the judge was like, great idea. Love it. That Seal Beach jail, I looked it up. Never have they, and they're not allowed, if you're a private jail, you're not allowed to have violent criminals do, like you pay to stay there, whatever. It's like $80 a night to go there. Though that jail, private jail, is supposed to be for people that have money, but they're like, like white collar crimes and stuff like that, like didn't pay taxes or something.
Okay.
Like that's what it is. Never. It's like, I think it's against the law. They're not allowed to have violent criminals. However, Seal Beach Jail made an exception for these guys. And in this jail, it's one of the nicest private jails in the country. And they have full, like, flat screens inside each cell and full-size refrigerators. And you can get all your meals, like, brought in every day. So you can have, like, Matsuhisa if you want, Mr. Chow. You can have, you don't have to eat their food.
God.
So they
What
got
is the point?
45 non-consecutive, and it didn't interfere with their, like, work, with their social lives. And they had all of that. Like, they're, like, babied and coddled. And I think in the first week or two that of time that they had spent there, they were doing weekends and stuff. They all got kicked out for showing up drunk. And by the way, they're on felony probation. You can't be drinking or around alcohol, or you'll go to prison. not for them. They showed up wasted and were aggressive, trying to fight the staff, like the police, wherever you call them, that work there. So they kicked them out. We had to have a hearing to address a probation violation. And we all show up. We're excited. We're like, okay, of course they would violate probation in the first 2 weeks. Like, this is amazing. They got breathalyzed, like they had alcohol in their systems. They're going to prison. We show up to the hearing, and the new judge, she says, well, I'm not going to add any time or anything. Totally going to allow it because nobody specifically told them, hey, don't drink when you show up to your jail on the weekend.
By the way,
so we were like,
is Robert Shapiro still representing all these guys? Okay.
Yes. Okay. And at one point, he took his name off, saying he didn't represent them anymore. However, throughout the years, up until like even the last year or so, another attorney at his firm named Maria Hall took over. I think they just wanted to take his name off it. Yeah. So they're all still very, very interconnected.
Because they're buddies.
Yeah. Oh, and another little side note, which is why the first amazing judge, in my opinion, was removed. Because first of all, he was like, I'm going to throw the book at them. But part of the reason he was going to throw the book at them wasn't just because of the evidence presented and the testimonies. We didn't know for, maybe 2 years, something like that. Once I started buying all the transcripts, when I started realizing everybody was lying, I bought the transcripts and I was like reading what happened during the preliminary criminal thing. Because when that happens, all the victims and people testifying, nobody's allowed to be in the courtroom when other people are testifying, so that, so you don't like sway somebody else's testimony or whatever. Like you're not allowed to be in there or talk about it outside of court. So we didn't know what had happened when we were all sitting in the hallway, what was happening inside the courtroom. So here's the thing. I'm reading the transcript and realized that all of a sudden, during one of the main testimonies of the victims, the bailiff suddenly goes, Your Honor? And he whispers something to her, whatever. And then the judge was like, all right, hold on, get the witness out of here, put him in the back room. We got to talk about something. Something just happened. So they removed the witness, but the stenographer's still going. Comes back in and the judge says, okay, so what's going on? And the bailiff goes, yeah, so I just noticed that the identical twins, Alberto and Maurice, he's like, I just noticed that they've been switching seats and switching clothes in between witness testimonies. And the crazy part was, and so he said it and the judge was like, wait a second, that's not cool. And Robert Shapiro goes, oh my goodness, like that's so surprising. They're identical. I didn't even know that they were identical. Like it was crazy. So the judge goes, well, that's very interesting that you should say that, Robert, because you actually asked specifically before this began that the Driz twins be in specific chairs for the entirety of the trial. And now they're switching clothes. Like one would come in with like bright, like electric fluorescent green reading glasses, and the other one would have no glasses. One would be, and they were switching them. And the crazy part is during this prelim, for some reason I noticed, I've been modeling for years, and one thing you can spot a mile away when you've been modeling for years is you can tell when a wardrobe stylist, Eric, you get this. Okay. So you can tell when someone has been styled. You can tell when a professional has like done their outfits. And I remember the very first day of the prelim, I'm sitting in the hallway and the Driz twins walked past us. And I was like, that's so weird. Like one day they would be wearing identical outfits, like same V-cut cashmere gray sweater with a sport coat and the same exact blue pants. And, like maybe they'd be wearing like the same brand, the same everything, but like one would be a light gray sweater and the other one would be a dark gray, but everything was identical. Then the next day, one would be wearing, a button down that's like white, and the other one would be wearing a vest with glasses. So you could tell they were being dressed to look identical one day and then dressed to be very different. And I was noticing it. So I started writing down their outfits and the details every day I was there. And I didn't know why. I felt I was like being stupid, but it came in handy a couple years later. And that's when I realized they were being styled so that they could easily switch a jacket or the glasses, like whatever, in between testimonies, so that, we'd go in and start the day and the judge would be like, that's Maurice, that's Alberto. And then we'd all go outside and they go, okay, call in the first witness. And they'd switch seats and they'd switch glasses, and it was to confuse all the witnesses so that people would be, it was insanity. So it was just, so that happened, and the judge was like, I caught you. And then I think maybe one or two more times during the prelim, they had to stop it again. And the bailiff would be like, yeah, sorry, judge, they're switching clothes again. They're switching seats
my
again.
God.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You like fuckery from beginning to end. And that was just the very beginning, like the beginning of all of the corruption, blatant everything. Yeah.
So, okay, what was the verdict? What were you looking for out of the trial?
You mean criminal or civil?
Criminal.
Well, criminal, we wanted prison,
Okay.
prison for the full 7 years, but instead they got 45 non-consecutive days in a private like Airbnb of their choice, pretty much. So, we didn't get that, but over the next couple of years, we had to have maybe close to like 24 hearings to address all the probation violations. Let's see, when was 2017? So within a year after they were convicted and had to start beginning their quote unquote jail time. So they, less than a year after they got caught drinking and being drunk at jail and trying to fight the cops, there was a surprise probation search at the luxury Beverly Hills condo that the three Drizzes were living together. That was their probationary address for probation reasons. And there happened to be a surprise search. And when this surprise search happened, only one of the twins was home, the owner of the condo. The other two were out. And 6 Beverly Hills Police Department cops show up along with the high risk GPS unit, which is they're not on our case. They do all the felony probation searches around the city of LA. And so they just popped in. And during that search, they found cocaine, a stolen loaded chambered gun, paraphernalia, and a duffel bag of weed, all in each of their rooms. And First of all, if you're a felon and you're on felony probation and you have stolen property, like a gun, or even if it was your own gun, you're not allowed to have a gun. Or if you have cocaine.
Yeah,
they had a full trifecta there.
They had all of it,
God.
So they were caught with all of that, and they were given no probation, no jail time for that at the hearings. The new judge who stayed on the case for the next few years always let them off for all of their probation, like breaking contact. Like I have a video of my own deposition of Sean Drizz showed up to it, Christina's boyfriend, and he's on video. It's in the transcript, and he's not allowed to talk to me because of restraining order. And he says on video, he was like, hey, I want to talk to her. And we were like, no, you're not allowed to do that. And he just goes, I want to know if you're afraid of me, plain and simple. And it's just like, okay, he violated. Cool. We got it on camera. It's in the transcript. The stenographer got it. I have a copy of it. No probation. No, nothing. Allowed to do it. So this was, and by the way, back to the gun cocaine bust at their house, Sean Drizz wasn't even arrested. In fact, we found out from the hearing we went to like a week or two later, we talked to the arresting officer and we said, why the fuck would Sean Drizz not be arrested? Like, these are dangerous, dangerous people. It's not a good combination for a violent felon to have a gun and cocaine in their possession. This does not bode well for anybody in society.
Right, a person who drinks in jail.
Yeah, and the cop, the officer said, and she was like pissed, and she goes in front of me and all of our friends that were there at court. She said, look, I don't know who this Sean guy knows, but he clearly knows somebody very, very powerful in the system, because we were going to, since he wasn't home, doesn't matter if they're home or not during something like this. If that's your address and there's that stuff caught, you're getting arrested, period. That's the law. Mm-hmm. She said that she goes, we went to go back there that night or something to wait for him to arrest him. And instead of arresting him, her superior, she didn't name who her superior was, but her superior told her to stand down, do not arrest, you are never going to arrest that kid And if you do, you're going to have to do it at his new address that he moved into the very next day from that Beverly Hills condo. He goes, his new address is in Brentwood with his girlfriend, and you're not going to arrest him. It's not going to happen. Well, guess what? I have it documented. He said it in a deposition 6 months later that he moved in with his girlfriend, Christina Schwarzenegger, the day after the bust and was somehow allowed to not be arrested. And that the connections just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then even like during the probation violation hearings for said gun and cocaine, here's the thing about this. We were told about one of the twins' hearings to deal with this. Like the DA emailed us, was like, hey, it's downtown where we do everything we've done downtown. So, here are the dates. We'll see you then. And it was weird because we were like, well, wait, first of all, like we're already pissed that Sean wasn't even arrested, but we were like, what about the other twins' dates? Why is only one twin when they all live there? What's going on? But it was like no answers. Then somebody, and I will never say their name publicly for their own safety, somebody that works in the system got a burner phone and called us and said, hey, these are locations and dates of hearings that are going to be happening over the next month. You need to show up to them and bring eyes. Bring people with you. Here are the dates and times and the department room numbers. And if you ever tell anybody I told you this, I will deny it because this is a burner phone. And they hung up.
Oh my God.
We're sitting there going, wait a second. Why is this location at the airport courthouse, which is like an hour away from downtown? Like that has nothing to do with like our district or whatever you call it, like jurisdiction. So we're confused. We have no idea, but we show up to these weird court dates. And when we do, we see like Blair Burke, who at the time was representing Harvey Weinstein for his billion rapes.
Oh,
and
God.
We're like, what is going on? Blair Burke. And when we walked into the back of the courtroom, again, not knowing why we're there, we walk in and the other male attorney that was standing there for the other twin, he turned around and I swear to God, he said, and we could hear it from 70 feet away, he said, what the fuck are they doing here? And we were like, what is he yelling? Why is he swearing? What is happening? So we just sit in the way back. And we realize we are at the secret hearing of the other twin whose condo it was, who was arrested on the spot and then released from jail immediately after like a couple days. They expedited his release. And we realize it's a new judge, a new set of attorneys, and there's no DA, and it has a new case number. So had we not found out about this, we never would. They literally just said, yeah, you're the new judge. This judge placed in a different jurisdiction literally just said, yeah, so, you're guilty. You got caught. Not going to add any jail time. And also he says to Blair Burke, he says, let's have him released from county because he's been there a couple days. I will expedite it for you. And if you have any issues, call my cell phone after court. That's illegal. You're not allowed to speak. The judge isn't allowed to speak to attorneys without the other attorneys present. That's just how it works. I have it in the transcript.
Oh.
He literally was like, I'll expedite it. Call my cell phone if you have any issues after court. And this judge in these secret illegal hearings with a new case number, in 2 hearings for like he had to have multiple dates to deal with Jeff Alberto for the gun in these secret hearings, and we showed up to every single one.
Oh my God.
But in 2 of those court dates, this was very telling. This is one of the biggest like bombs. Like, wow. As he's looking at Alberto, the judge says, so Alberto, can you just promise me after I expedite your release, can you just promise me you or somebody, your family, to just go back to your home and get rid of any bullets or anything else that might be there and just get rid of it? And then he says, he goes, have you ever heard the quote, I'll be back? And he goes, sure. And he goes, you know who said it? And he's like, I think so. And the judge goes, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, the former governor, is the one that said that famous quote, I'll be back. And he goes, so remember that, okay? Because probation will be back. He said that in 2 different hearings while releasing him instead of sending him to prison for like 20 years.
Okay.
So it was his way of saying to him, like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you better be really appreciative of what's going on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
okay. In the meantime, What's going on with you? And were your medical bills paid for at least? Did you get any compensation? Or is this the civil trial? What's happening now?
I still have so much, I have so many doctors that I've seen, so many I still need to see. I have weird little memory, zaps and stuff, weird stuff that happens. So I knew from the get-go 9 years ago, something was wrong with my brain. So I made a point to write down everything. And my memory gaps are very specific. I don't want to go into that detail because I don't want them to know how it works and how I fix it. But I just keep very detailed notes and stuff. But, when 2021 came around, we had our civil trial and it was a jury. It was 3 weeks long and the jury unanimously awarded us the largest PTSD settlement of all time. It was somewhere around $80 million. And they haven't paid a cent of it. That was 3 years ago. And they are still, I have the photo evidence, they are still just flying first class. They love posting pictures of them flying first class, staying at the most expensive, super yachts where there's 8 bedrooms just for staff. They're staying at the most expensive mansions you can rent in the most beautiful getaway vacations. They are living in the lap of luxury and nothing has been done to collect.
How come that can't be enforced? Them paying you? I mean, something.
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think. I have been pushing so hard, reaching out to everybody. And they pretty much the way it's worked is anybody who was actually doing their job ethically was immediately removed. That happened to 2 amazing judges. It happened to, in fact, there was an amazing, hard ass, incredible, one of the most badass women I've ever met in my life was the judge who did our civil trial. She was terrifying in the best way. And she, even during the punitive portion on the last day, she was like, yeah. So it looks here, I'm looking at all the documents that the defense provided, and you guys are hiding 90% of the documents I ordered you to bring, your government stuff, your tax info, your assets, all that stuff. She goes, I'm looking at it. She's like, I'm not an idiot. She's like, in fact, last night I looked it up on the computer or whatever. She's like, and I discovered you put multiple homes into this trust fund that was made after the lawsuit. So we're going to cover that in 30 days when we have the hearing, which is to freeze and seize. That's how it works for they do it 30 days after the verdict.
Okay.
So we were like, oh, it's on. They have tens of millions of dollars just in Blaze Pizza. They have tons of mansions, condos, Rolls Royces they were driving, Rolls Royce Phantoms. And guess what happened? In those 30 days, the judge was removed and I was told that she asked to be off the case. So of course I popped down to court and the federal courthouse and a month later. And I was because I knew she didn't do that. I knew that. And I popped down in there and I wasn't allowed to technically. If you're in those courthouses, you can't go in unless you have a trial. You have to be on the list for these specific courthouses. But when I went, all the security remembered us. They remembered me. It was a big deal, our case when it happened there, and they remembered us, and they let me in. I was like, okay, cool, just gonna do. And I ran up to the courtroom, waited till the judge was taking a lunch break from her current trial, whatever it was. And I ran into the courtroom, but I made it in there probably 2 seconds after she went into her chambers. But her clerk, her longtime clerk who was at our trial, was there. So I went up to her and I was like, hey, I'm Anne Greene. And she goes, I remember you. And I was like, okay, great. Well, I just want to ask, why did the judge ask to be removed from the case? I have it in an email. I was told she asked to be removed and that there's now a 6-month delay to do the freeze and seizing court date. And she looked at me and she goes, I've been working for her for years. I handle her calendar and we handled your trial. She goes, that never happened. She never asked to be removed. I don't know what you're talking about, but somebody lied to you.
Oh my God.
So things like that.
Oh my gosh.
She was removed and we didn't get to have that court date that was supposed to be 30 days later. It happened, I don't even know, maybe a year or two later. And weird stuff, just a lot of weird stuff that I haven't gotten into yet in my series of the new replacement judge being unprecedentedly lenient and being like, well, we're not going to freeze anything. We're going to, actually, the we're not going to order them back to court, the defendants, like they're supposed to be. We're going to put the onus on the plaintiffs to hire out servers and like PIs to chase them around the world instead of just ordering them back to court. And so like we've literally had this new judge just sit on her hands and go, I can't do anything, which is unprecedented.
Okay.
That's unbelievable, Anne.
So Anne, through
Oh my God, did I lose you guys again?
Oh no,
it's
not my fault.
It is your fault.
It's not
your
my
phone.
fault.
Oh my God. We got to wrap this up because it's going pretty long, but I want to ask her, I have like two more questions.
Hold on. Oh my God, Anne.
I know. It's freaking Eric. I was going to ask you before his phone acts up again, if everything you're fighting for goes your way, what will the outcome be? What do you want to happen? What do you want?
Well, so it's the number has ballooned because there's a 10% added every year. It's unpaid. So now it's up to 106 million, and about 45 million ish is owed to me. But what I would like to happen, and that's the reason I'm doing this series, is I want these guys' faces to be household names, so that they can't do this to any more people. Because there's been other things that have come out that I discovered, like the violence and the predator ways, as you could probably guess, didn't end with us. One of the defendants, not the Drizzes, but the fourth defendant, William Jolson, who's one of Sean Drizz's buddies, who was extremely violent. And I found out and brought it to the civil trial, but he had a restraining order put against him by a girlfriend, like 2 years after the assault. And in her statement and stuff, it was like, he strangled me, he took my dog, he wouldn't allow me to leave. Like there was 3 different like incidents where there was domestic violence. And so like that happened. The 2 Drizzes, the twins, they were found guilty a few years later of sexual battery of an underage girl of a Blaze Pizza employee who was 16.
Oh.
Like
Dude.
and they are so powerful and have powerful ties to somebody, can't say his name,
Okay.
who is managing to keep them out of prison. And like, so I want to make sure that they don't do this ever again. And when I get the money, because I'm not going to stop till I get it. And
Good.
Because getting the money from them, it's not just me getting the money, it's making them pay it, because people like that's the only thing that's going to stop their behavior is reputation and money. That's the only thing that matters to them.
And to be held accountable for the horrible things that they've done.
Yeah. And not only that, but you've had to pay for your own medical expenses and all these transcripts you've had to buy and all. This has been out of your own pocket, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And I've had to stop. I was successful modeling for years and stuff, and I had to stop working. It was like up and down, like trying to heal, and up and down. Sometimes I was working afterwards, sometimes I wasn't. In the last year and a half, I haven't been able to work. Like I've worked like 2 days in the entire last year and a half because I have such bad like PTSD and social anxiety. Like sometimes like I'm like, I have to go buy eggs and it'll take me 4 days to get to the grocery store because I'm just like panicking and stuff. Like it's been really hard. So not working and handling all this because, the system won't do it. And it's been really rough, but doing the series, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I don't know how this is going to end, but I'm being approached by, production companies and people that are like, you should write a book, you should do a documentary. And I'm like, you know what? I'm open to that now. Like I want to platform.
You've written everything down. You have all the transcripts. You have it written already pretty much. I mean, wow. Yeah. So where can people find your series and where are you at in the series right now?
So my series is, the main one is on TikTok, and it's where most of the detail, because I have a lot of posts in between with updates and stuff like that, it's there. But the second best one is on my Instagram. My Instagram is my name, ANNE _ Greene, GREENE. And my TikTok is, so my TikTok is Animal Greene, ANNE IMAL GREENE. And the reason I chose Animal Greene for TikTok is because during the civil trial, the Drizzes referred to me as an animal. So I was like, okay, I'm going to show you an animal. I'm going to show you.
Oh my
I'll
God.
be an animal.
I'm sorry. What pigs? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you,
Oh.
okay, because we need to, we're going pretty long for our podcast, which usually is an hour,
Yeah.
but this is good stuff. But I just like, have you received any threats, like anonymous threats to your life or because of all what you're doing right now?
Yes. One time I was out, I caught the Drizzes. They were in a bar, like in 2019 on felony probation. And I happened to walk into a hotel and they were standing at the bar, like buying drinks and like whiskey or bourbon. I forget. I asked the bartender. But I saw them and I freaked out and I pulled out my camera and I took a video and ran out the front door and they knew it was me. And a few hours later that night, somebody came to my home and at the time I was renting a room out of a house on a private gated street and with only 8 homes on the private gated street. So you know who's in and out and stuff and you have to go through the gate. Somebody came to my home a few hours after I took that picture and took a crowbar to my car, beat the hell out of it. During the civil trial, so there's another incident too. I don't know if we have enough time, but
yeah, go ahead.
I was dating. So this was the same weekend that I got the crowbar to my car. I was dating a guy, and a few days after this whole went down, I got the evidence. I was going to give it to the DA. Then the crowbar thing happened, and 2 days later, I went to his home, and we were being intimate inside his home. But his home was it had a huge yard around it, and then around the yard was a huge high wall for privacy, it was a really nice place. And so if you're on the street, you can't see over the wall. And we were having sex pretty much inside his home. It was nighttime. And all of a sudden we stopped because we heard a sound and we look out the window 5 feet from us and there's a drone 2 feet beyond the window and it's recording us. It went over the wall, up the yard, recorded us. So for the next few years, I was I was terrified. It messed with my PTSD. I was afraid they were going to release it. But I was okay, well, the upside is if they release it, you can tell we're not making a sex tape because it's through a closed window from a patio.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
tell. Yeah. But during the civil trial, a few years later, during the 3rd week of the trial, the last week when it was clear we were going to win, a burner account sent me an email saying Anne Greene, pretty much, and it's very long, and the email, and it pretty much said, the gist was, we have hacked your phone, we have all of your contacts, and we have a video of you having sex, and we're going to release it to all of your contacts unless you make the right decision in the next 48 hours or something like that, which the decision was drop the lawsuit, don't show up for the rest of the trial.
Oh my gosh.
I've gotten threats. And that's one of 100 instances.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then you were on your way to something and you took an Uber.
Yeah, that was recently.
Yeah, that was
during my series.
Yes, because she was talking about it and I called her and I was like, "Are you okay?"
Okay, wait.
I was So
this is the most recent thing that's happened. What happened in the Uber?
Yeah, I was just outside of LA, and I called an Uber to go into LA for a hour drive. And I was in the car, wasn't paying attention. I was on my phone, and about 45 minutes into the drive, I look up and I see the driver. He's motioning, take your headphones out. So I took them out, and he says, just so you know, he's like, you see that G-Wagon, two car paces behind us? He goes, that car pulled out the second I picked you up, and it's been following us the entire way. And we were even taking weird routes and stuff because it was rush hour. And he was like, that car has been following us the whole way. And the car, it was not tinted. It was blacked out, illegally blacked out windows. And I was like, oh my God. No, first thing he said to me was, excuse me, ma'am, do you have a stalker? And I was like, sort of. And he goes, yeah, we've been followed for the last 45 minutes.
God.
And he said, I wanted to tell you before I drop you off somewhere, if it's if I'm bringing you home. And I was like, so when I looked and I saw the Mercedes, the Mercedes took off suddenly, fast. And the guy, it was crazy. And I didn't get a picture, but I did get the license plate. I haven't done anything with that yet, so I got that. And then when I went to that place that he dropped me off, about 10 minutes later, I went outside and a drone popped up and was hovering and following me as I walked up the street. And the second I started filming it, it took off, and I posted that on my TikTok.
Crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, I know this has nothing to do with your case, or it's nothing like it, but the fact that Diddy has been taken down, does that kind of give you hope that other powerful people can be brought down eventually?
I could not be more proud of Cassie playing chess while they're playing checkers.
Yeah.
For her, it was so smart. And so I just got goosebumps. For her to file that lawsuit, her attorneys were amazing. File the lawsuit with all of those details so that that's already out there. The public knows. So even though, he settled with her 24 hours later, the public knew, and that triggered a federal investigation, whether she got the settlement or whatever, which she did, proud of her, and she deserved it and every penny. But that was huge. What's happening now, like that does give me hope. I get so excited to see I've met that dirtbag before, like
same,
like 3 times way in the past, and he creeped me out. Like,
really?
Followed me around. Yeah, followed me around, and it was just. I didn't know he was, a sex trafficker allegedly, or whatever, but I knew he was a creep. Like it was, it was very apparent.
Okay. Well, Anne, everybody, you can catch up on her story and continue the story on TikTok, on Instagram. On TikTok, your series is called Don't Say Schwarzenegger.
It's called Don't Say Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've also I created a YouTube page as well for people that might not have and it's the same profile name as my TikTok, and it's Anne Greene.
Okay, we'll put a link on our website too, so people can
I appreciate
pop over
that.
Yeah, for sure, because
absolutely.
You deserve every penny of that, and you know what?
Thank you
are
so
a
much.
fighter. I don't know how tall you are. You look like you're like
5'6".
You're a diminutive little. You're like a little person, and I'm so proud of you for putting up such a bold, brave fight in the face of money and power and privilege. And I don't think you're never going to give up.
No, and that's why I fucking love you, man. That's why I was just
really,
like, oh man,
really impressive.
Yeah.
And
also with this whole thing is with my series, I've gotten hundreds of not just comments, but like usually in the DMs where there's been so many women that have sent me DMs saying that seeing me do this has helped them in their healing process of and they'll tell me details about domestic violence, like molestation, like really, really rough stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they I remember one comment was like, I can see you healing throughout this process on film and stuff. And every time I see you heal, I feel like a part of me heals and I could just cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, look what you're doing.
I sobbed reading the DMs, and I've got about probably 20-ish more parts to go in my series. So we got more juicy stuff coming out.
Oh my gosh, Anne. Well, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you. You guys are so lovely.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Anne, so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah,
for sure.
good luck with everything, and just keep fighting the good fight. You're going to get it. It's going to work.
I will. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Bye, Anne.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Holy
Isn't she awesome?
Nikes.
Isn't that crazy?
That is just, that makes me so angry.
I know.
I just, the money talks. Money runs the world. Money.
Yeah.
The more money you have, the more power you have. Power, money, power.
But you did bring up a really good point. I think that this things are going to change. I think finally society is getting sick of these people with these deep
making
pockets
all the
that
deals,
are just able to
side deals and all these.
Can you believe those private court hearings?
No. Jeez.
And
or
you know,
somebody
jail. Is in her corner rooting for her, because who would do that?
I know, with the burner phone and everything. I know. So, and now hopefully all of you guys will be on her, supporting her, lifting her up, because she is bullshit.
Awesome. Yeah.
Anyway,
and she deserves every penny.
She sure does.
Yeah.
She sure does. Well, thank you for hanging on for this super long show. And thank you, Anne Greene, for joining us. And we'll be back on Thursday with a whole new show. And we promise it will hopefully be funny.
I'm gonna be a riot.
You're gonna be a laugh riot. Okay, with that, love your podcast.
Love your podcast.
Bye.
Thank you, Anne.
Bye, my sweet babies. I love you.